There are two companies out right now that are publicly traded. One is called Archer Aviation, and the other is Joby Aviation, and they're the two primary companies in this space. And I say that because they are currently testing, they're getting their FAA certifications, getting their safety profiles up, and Archer, the first one, signed a deal with United Airlines, and they're going to be taxiing people around Chicago. And just to think about it, it's pretty cool. Like, you know, instead of having to go through traffic, instead of taking an Uber, you can call up one of these companies and they'll just come drop, vertical takeoff landing. They'll come to remote areas, pick you up, take you to the airport. And I think it could be even bigger than that. That's kind of where they're starting.
Hey, you got Luke Burgess here with the Angel Research Podcast. Today I'm here with Alex Boulden.
Hey.
Alex is the editor of the Insider Stakeout. He also writes for Outsider Club and Wealth Daily. Alex, thanks very much for being here.
Hey, Luke, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So we're going to talk about a few different things today. The first thing I want to talk about are JetPacks. Now, first of all, are we talking? What are we calling these things? Are they JetPacks? From the videos that I've seen online, they look very much like JetPacks to me. But I'm assuming that there's probably a more proper name. Is it JetSuits?
So I think there is a distinction between the two. Your more traditional jetpack is kind of, like a backpack, like you strap on and you have the rocket boosters. Now this company that has put out a lot of videos that you've probably seen, it's called Gravity Industries, and they're based out of California, and they're saying that they are making jet suits. And these are different from jetpacks because you are strapped in to rocket boosters essentially with your arms, and you're controlling them with your body. And this is apparently much safer, more intuitive for the user. Because you can imagine if you have something on your back, you have thrusters and you're going to have to turn it. But these are more fluid, so you can kind of fly in and out. So yeah, I think jet suit is the right term for this.
I see. As soon as you explain that, I totally get it now. The jetpack is something that's going to sit on your back, where these things, they sit on your arms. I've seen the videos.
Yeah.
So what are the applications for these things? Because to me, it looks like a lot of fun. I can imagine people racing around in these things. The video that I saw, I guess the most popular video is where on the Top Gear video where they're racing the car, and I could see people racing in sport. But what are some other applications for these things?
Yeah, I do like the racing. I think that's really cool. I think that there's probably two applications. One of them is kind of aerial rescue.
Okay.
Where you're going to be flying into maybe a remote area. Maybe you're launching off of a ship and you're getting to a remote spot where a helicopter or an airplane or a boat can't get in, and you need to be there quickly. Now, one of the drawbacks of these is, at least right now, I think they can only fly for 10 minutes at a time. So obviously that's not where it needs to be. And that's because they use jet fuel currently. And I think one of the other applications is for the military, but it's the same kind of deal. The videos that I've seen are people launching maybe into remote locations, maybe onto a boat for rescue. And I've seen the videos where they've got rifles on their backs and they kind of land, and they're training right now with them. So I think this is going to be used in the military very soon, and it looks kind of like a Halo suit if you ever played Halo back in the day on Xbox. And So yeah, one of the drawbacks obviously is the cost of the jet fuel. It's not cheap, um, but they are starting to make electric applications for this. So they're going to be using jet suits that use batteries instead of jet fuel, and I think that's kind of where this is headed. It's the future.
So the company that's making these now, Gravity, I'm assuming they're not making them for the retail market. I'm assuming it's a custom thing that you'd have to order, and I'm sure train for before you even buy.
Oh yeah, yeah. It looks like from what I've been seeing that it takes a lot of training. And actually, one of the reasons that they're switching to electric pack or electric suits is because when you are training with the jet fuel, it obviously produces a lot of heat, and people are injuring themselves while they're training. So they're switching to an electric application for training purposes. Now, on the website that I saw, you can go in as a civilian. You don't have to be military, I don't believe, and you can just try them out at the company's facilities. So I don't know. Maybe we should take a trip down there.
Actually, I'd love that.
Yeah.
I guess you know what? Maybe they're just selling an experience now, similar to
Yes.
the way
Yes.
those zero gravity planes sell the zero G experience.
Yeah, and the skydiving companies.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what they're called.
The I don't know. Yeah, the indoor.
iFlight or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what do you think is the future of this technology? Are we how close are we to seeing like, army men flying around in these things? Is it pretty far off, or what do you think?
I think there are a couple.
I'm sorry, it probably won't be the army flying around in these things, but I'm sure some other branch, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. What branch would be using them. But I think one of the, like I said, the drawback is creating a cost-effective system. Um, Batteries are obviously going to be more expensive in the short term. Once we are able to bring costs lower for precious metals, and find efficient ways to make the batteries and make them cheaper, then this could be something that we'll see in the next decade, I think.
One application that I can actually see it potentially being used for is personnel transfer. I don't know if you've ever seen how people get from the ships to like oil platforms, but it's
Hmm.
basically a basket. They just hang onto this basket and sort of like swing over there.
Yeah.
That might be a very expensive option, but as costs come down, maybe it will be feasible. How much do these things cost now?
I really don't know.
You don't know.
I have no idea.
I mean, I'm
Um,
assuming they're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I would think so. I, from what I saw, I don't see anything on their website that talks about price. But obviously, if you contact them, they're gonna try to sell you out on that. But
Well, they're not selling them retail anyway.
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sure it's like a boutique thing that you'd have to get bespoke at this point. I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
So the next thing I want to talk about is gold, and I want to talk to you specifically about gold, or specific to you about gold, because it was several weeks ago now that you asked me about buying gold.
Hmm.
And did you ever buy it?
I did not. Something that I should have done because gold is now sitting at all-time highs. Is that
It
correct?
is. Well, last night gold reached an all-time high of 28 or $2,085 an ounce,
Okay.
which is the all-time nominal high. It's not the inflation-adjusted high, but yeah, all-time nominal high.
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to talk about that is that this is not uncommon. Honestly, about 9 out of 10 people who ask me about gold probably don't end up buying it.
Hmm.
And I'm curious, what was it? Why didn't you? Is it because it was just too much of a pain in the ass, which it is sometimes? Was it like you were afraid to be scammed? What were the reasons that you decided to hell with it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the main issue for me is finding a reputable store where you can buy it. Um, and you recommended a place, and it's about 30 minutes from our offices.
And you
Um,
specifically did not want to get it mailed because you didn't want to have to deal with the package and having the package delivered. And if it might be like delivered to your house, having it
right,
set on the front stoop, which we
right.
have a problem with here in Baltimore.
Yeah, I didn't want it delivered. The possibility of it getting lost in the mail. I didn't want to buy it from a company that's holding it, because if they can hold it, I can hold it. I'm not too worried about it getting stolen.
And they're going to charge you for that, holding it as well.
Exactly. Um, there is an interesting company that I started using probably 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, called Glint. Have you heard of Glint?
No.
So Glint is a debit card essentially, and you purchase gold on through the company, and they put it on your debit card, and they hold the gold. So you are basically earning whatever it could be going up, it could be going down on your debit card, but you're basically using gold as cash. And I've used that in the past, and I haven't had any problems with them. I used all of the gold in my account a couple years ago. If I had held it, it would have been worth a little more. But it's kind of an interesting way to use gold that is not going to a physical store and buying it. And I think the other problem that I had with just buying it physically was, what is the ultimate goal when you're buying it? To me, it's reselling it for a higher value. So if you go back to that store and sell it to them, I don't know, they're probably not. I don't have a lot of experience with that, so they're probably not going to give you a I don't know, a good price for it. Do you have experience with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I could tell you
Yeah,
all about this. Okay, so I mean, it depends on like what type of coins that you're talking about.
yeah,
All gold bullion coins come with a premium. When you go back to sell them, some they do come with a premium. They actually do sell with a premium. The
right,
seller will sell them back, will give you a premium back. That's mostly the very well known gold bullion coins, the American Eagle and the Canadian Maple Leaf. As far as reputable dealers, anybody that you find that is an authorized dealer of the U.S. Mint is pretty much going to be a reputable dealer.
okay,
That's a it's a very tricky thing to get. That's not something they want to lose. They don't want to even risk losing that status.
right,
So the most the sketchiest thing to do when you're buying gold is to buy it from eBay or some other private seller, particularly like a pawn shop. Never buy anything from a pawn shop.
okay, s-
Um, but it's a big company that is an authorized dealer or an authorized mint dealer.
okay,
They're probably pretty reputable.
okay. Yeah, it's good advice.
Um, but yeah, so gold now is at super high prices. But I generally, when I'm investing in gold, I do own some gold bullion. But when I'm usually investing in stocks, mining stocks or exploration stocks. Is that anything that you have interested in, or are you only interested in the bullion for protection?
I think initially you think about it in terms of protection,
Yeah,
in terms of a hedge.
yeah, yeah.
But if you're looking at it in order to, buy securities, I think gold. I've bought gold miners in the past, but this cycle, like this year, I just didn't really look into it that much. Are there any gold miners that you think are going to continue profiting from this um, rising gold prices?
Well, I mean, they all pretty much should, as long as
Yeah,
as long as they're all making money. Um, I actually think like if gold prices go up, you could pretty much just throw a dart at a board at a bunch of gold companies, and you're going to find a winner. But I think at first the biggest winners are going to be the big name players. I mean, I'm talking about like Newmont, Barrick, Royal Gold. These are the companies that everybody knows. When people think gold prices are going up, they're thinking about these companies. Those are the ones that are going to be bought first. And then later on, it'll be like the smaller development companies, and then the exploration companies that play catch up. But yeah, I actually think it'd be very easy to make money in a rally, just with these large mining companies.
Now, you predicted that gold would reach above 2000. Do you have any predictions for the end of the year or within the next couple of years? What do you think
Wait,
gold is going to
who's
be?
interviewing you here? No, I'm kidding. No, okay. So I've said many times not just this podcast but other podcasts. I actually don't like to give like a gold price forecast,
Uh-huh.
and it's actually because of something I told you a while ago. It's because it's going to be disappointing. You know,
Right.
if I'm giving you a gold price, you're going to be very disappointed, even if I tell you $6,000 an ounce, which I actually this is my prediction. I think the gold prices are going to go back to $6,500 an ounce, but that's very underwhelming because that means the gold price is going to increase 300%. Then the objection people are going to have is, well, why should I buy crypto that increased 10,000%?
Mm-hmm.
But what they don't understand is I'm not investing in the physical gold bullion as much as I am these junior gold stocks, which they're leveraged to the price of gold.
Right.
So it's yeah, I am going after the 1,000% gains. It's just the price of gold is always underwhelming. And like I was saying to you, if you buy the physical gold,
Right.
you're going to be underwhelmed.
Yeah.
You're going to spend $2,000 on an ounce of gold that's about the size of a thick quarter, and you're going to be like, "That's it." Everyone says the first time they buy gold. I've been with many people. And they always say like, "That's it.
Yep.
That's all I get."
Yep. The only gold I own is a tenth of an ounce. Little tiny coin. So I'm holding on to that.
Now, what about silver? Is that something that you're interested in, or something maybe you haven't even considered?
I've considered it just because it's much cheaper.
Yeah.
But it tends to also, I mean, that would also be underwhelming. I, I don't know where silver is gonna go. I think people, it's kind of the same with crypto, where you're like, well, Bitcoin's the big dog. That's what I'm gonna buy gold. I'm gonna buy the gold. Like I'm not gonna mess with the other stuff. But
Actually, with silver, it's sort of the opposite.
yeah,
It's a little too much.
okay,
Silver is $23 an ounce, and silver it's lighter than gold, so the ounce coin is going to be bigger, about the size of a half dollar, or maybe like a size of an old Morgan dollar. Um, but yeah, like a couple $1,000s in silver it's pretty big, whereas a couple $1,000s in gold is very
right,
very
right,
small.
right.
Actually, one of the reasons that I actually don't like to buy a lot of silver bullion is because storing it is such a
Hmm.
pain in the butt. It's actually not storing it so much as it is just moving it around. You know what I mean? And you just don't want to do that.
Do gold miners typically also mine silver? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. So for the most part, most miners are polymetallic miners. If they're mining precious metals, it's usually gold and silver, gold and copper, or gold, silver, and copper,
okay?
among other things.
Um, I think copper is something that I'm interested in knowing more about as well. More so than silver. Um, but how does I guess one question I have with the whole industry is with precious metals in general, and mining and batteries are going in everything now with EVs. How is that affecting the market in general? Is it just going to cause all of these precious metals to go up in value? Um, yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so it's going to it's going to affect the price of precious metals. It's probably not going to drop. I'm sorry, of things like copper prices. It's probably not. Electric vehicles are probably not going to drive copper prices, but they're absolutely going to have an effect on them. We use copper for everything. it's just one more thing that's going to add to the demand. But I actually think that there are other metals that have a bigger opportunity other than copper. I think tin
Hmm.
is going to be a big, big, big winner. So let me ask you, what else are you looking at for the rest of the year, investment wise? What are big themes that you're going to be going after?
So I think for the past since early 2020, I was heavily investing in dividend paying companies, um, basically holding companies. I was looking at the top dividend stocks. Um, One company that I personally was invested in was Icon Enterprises, and I don't know if you've heard anything about that, um, but there was a. Do you know the short seller? I think it goes by the name of Hindenburg.
Hindenburg? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's just one guy or if it's a company, but he came out with a report on Icon Enterprises, and dude, the thing just got demolished. Third of its value gone. Um, Carl Icahn, the guy who runs the fund, lost somewhere between like $6 and $10 billion in 24 hours. Now, some people might see that as a buying opportunity. Um, it seems sketchy. Earnings are coming out next week, but that's something that I'm just interested in looking at. For me personally, one of the only reasons that I would buy a single stock is if that company is going to pay me to hold it. And that's what I'm looking at primarily. Um, Other trends, I know that we wanted to talk about like um, more EV companies, um, specifically electric um, flight and like electric airplanes. And I think that's kind of goes back to what we're talking about the jet suits, but I think that's a very interesting uh, sector that's going to disrupt the airline industry, which to me is kind of rife for just for a change.
Yeah, actually, going back to the jet suits, a few years ago, there was a big thing about the advanced. I actually wrote it down. The electric vehicle takeoff and lift. Sorry, electric vertical takeoff and lift vehicles.
And
I
landing.
and
Yep.
landing vehicle. Yeah, eVTOL.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I was very interested in these things. I think it's because I'm such a Star Wars fan, and I
Hmm.
saw as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god, they made a Star Wars speeder, like
Yeah,
for
yeah,
real,
yeah,
and it works. It's amazing."
yeah.
Is that something that you think is also could be big in the future?
I do. Within the next couple of years, really. There are two companies out right now that are publicly traded. One is called Archer Aviation, and the other is Joby Aviation, and they're the two primary companies in this space. And I say that because they are currently testing. They're getting their FAA certifications, getting their safety profiles up, and Archer, the first one, um, signed a deal with United Airlines, and they're going to be taxiing people around Chicago. And just to think about it, it's pretty cool. Like, you know, instead of having to go through traffic, instead of taking an Uber, you can call up one of these companies and they'll just come drop, vertical takeoff landing. They'll come to remote areas, pick you up, take you to the airport. And I think it could be even bigger than that. That's kind of where they're starting. But I really think that they want to be a driver in the space and maybe even do longer distances. But for right now, they're kind of just working with the airlines and taking people in and out. And Archer specifically should be ready by 2025, so just a couple of years. The other company, Joby, um, just signed a deal with the Air Force and the Department of Defense for a $130 million contract. And like you said, I'm editor for Insider Stakeout, so I look at things like congressional buying and lobbying and insider purchases. And both of these companies have had, the CEOs buying shares, and they've both lobbied Congress for, more than $1 million since 2021. So they're really, really making moves and putting a lot of money behind this. So I think at the least 2025 is when you'll actually see one of these flying overhead if you're in Chicago and be like, oh, wow, should have got in on that one.
So it's sort of like between maybe like a scaled down version of like a puddle jumper. Where
Yes.
is that? Yeah, it's where we're going.
Yeah.
So just to take a very short distance, that it wouldn't be worth getting on a plane, or too far for a car, too short for a plane.
Yep.
Gotcha. Well, Alex, I thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks.
Please come back again and see us soon.
Yeah, thanks, Luke.
So thanks for joining us. Please make sure to click and subscribe, and comment. Let us know if you have any topics you want us to talk about. Write it down and we'll get to it. Anyway, take it easy.